There's a lot of evidence that the video shown on 9/11 and that was supposedly live wasn't live video at all. Uh, as I've explained in previous videos, they used various tricks to cover up what actually happened on 9/11. And one of the tricks that they used was looping tape. So they would take a section of footage that's relatively benign and doesn't show what's happening, and then show that over and over again and call it live video. So a lot of the shots you see where it looks like the World Trade Center is smoking, they've just taken a few seconds of video and they keep showing it again and again and again, but they're claiming that it's live. And if you actually go to the archives and look at the live video coverage of 9/11, you'll notice that there are almost no shots from the streets of what's happening. Fox has a reporter showing what's going on in a very limited area with people walking up to be interviewed, but you don't really see very much from Manhattan at all. They keep jumping back between shots of smoke coming out of the World Trade Centers and shots of smoke coming out of the Pentagon, and there's reason to think that they're not even showing you live shots of smoke coming out of the World Trade Center or smoke coming out of the Pentagon. Notice how the flag jumps in this section, and you can see the man step in front of the camera as they're setting up the shot, but it claims that we're looking at live video, but we can't be, because you see the flag jump. You can see that there are cuts in the footage, continuity glitches.
Target in what is evidently a sustained terrorist campaign series of events in the United States today.
So Euronews claimed that that was live video we were looking at from the Pentagon, but we know that it can't possibly be live video because the flag can't jump. We're looking at the seams of a tape loop there, and they messed up. They weren't supposed to broadcast the beginning and end, the rough parts of the tape loop. They were supposed to make it seamless, so it looks like the flag is waving and there's smoke coming out of the Pentagon. And then they can show that over and over again and say, oh, we're going back to a live shot at the Pentagon, when really all you're looking at is a few seconds of video that have been looped together. So they did that over and over on 9/11, and the reason to do that is so that you can't see military equipment in the area. You can't see people firing missiles or setting off bombs or doing any of the other things that caused the explosions. Fortunately, many people videotaped the events of September 11th as they unfolded on television, and so we can prove from the many videotapes that exist and the television archives that non-live video was passed off as live video on 9/11. So the next example we'll look at is from NBC4 in Washington. They claim that they're showing us live footage of the Pentagon, but we'll see that it cannot possibly be live. So the reporter on the scene is conducting a live interview, and it says live, and yet somehow we see footage of people evacuating the Pentagon. It says live, but watch what happens here. They're walking around. The shadows are the wrong length for the time of day that this video is representing. So we see people walking through the parking lot. Notice how nobody looks upset, like nobody looks surprised, and then suddenly there was a jump cut in the live video. That jump cut is proof that the video wasn't live. So let's look at this footage again. Also, notice the shadows on the ground as the people are walking. Remember, it's basically a cloudless day on 9/11, and yet it appears to be overcast in this part of the clip. Again, the people don't look nervous. Watch the woman with the bob haircut as she comes into view here. So I believe that this is stock footage that was not shot on 9/11, and they've simply blue screened in that layer with smoke. But there we go. Okay, so now that you know what to look for in the clip that proves that it could not possibly be a live clip, I'll show it with the audio as it aired on 9/11. You can check out the archives for yourself. That's footage from NBC4 Washington. It's live footage from their coverage at the Pentagon. They claim that they just rolled up in their news van and started recording, and yet obviously it's impossible because they're interviewing a woman, and they're showing footage that must have been recorded earlier.
You get on when you want to fly to LA or wherever.
Now, we've been here probably about the same length of time as you have. I have heard a total of 3 booms, that initial boom, and then I heard 3 less large booms, but booms nonetheless. Have you heard the same thing?
Yes, I did. Smaller explosions. Maybe it's inside the building, some gas lines exploding or something. I don't know. But we heard the other explosions. I don't see any other smoke anywhere, so I suppose it's from inside the building.
Okay, Isabel James, thank you very much for joining us.
So people think that they saw live video from the Pentagon, but what they were really watching is some sort of scripted footage. It was obviously pre-recorded because it's got edits in it. It couldn't possibly have been live, so they think that they're seeing live footage from the Pentagon as it burns, but that footage probably wasn't even shot on 9/11. This was probably just footage from a drill, months or years earlier, and then they've edited in some smoke of the Pentagon burning. So let's look at another deception technique they used again and again on the supposedly live 9/11 videos. Rather than showing us actual live footage of the destruction unfolding in Manhattan and at the Pentagon, they created filler by taking innocuous footage, sort of benign footage with nothing happening in it, and then slowing it down and showing it over and over and over again. So I'll show an example of that.
May have flown out of Newark, New Jersey. This is an official who was speaking on the condition of anonymity. Again, there is no confirmation of that. We just know that there were 2 planes that went in. The first one apparently was an American Airlines flight that was from Boston to Los Angeles. We're now seeing it from the harbor view of this continuing damage and destruction to the world.
NBC in their live coverage showed that harbor view footage more than 20 times, and approximately almost an hour of their live coverage is that harbor view shot. So they keep going back to that shot and then talking over it and calling it live video. Okay, next we'll look at about an hour of NBC coverage sped up dramatically. And you'll notice that they've slowed down the video dramatically on the World Trade Center sequences. So they're showing video at about 1 frame per second and stretching it out dramatically on these harbor shots. So when we speed it up about 60 times, it looks almost normal. But you'll notice when they go to split screens and we see the Pentagon versus the World Trade Center, obviously it's been sped up dramatically. They took just a few minutes of footage of the water that probably wasn't even taken on September 11th. You don't see any police boats rushing into the scene or things going back and forth to Manhattan. That's just footage of the water taken on an ordinary day with a few snippets of the smoking World Trade Center, and then they slowed it down dramatically to fill up hours of video and called it live video on 9/11.
Had in mind.
Let's go to Bob Hager, who is, of course, NBC's aviation expert. Bob, what kind of information are you getting from your sources?
Not a lot, Katie, from the FAA. For instance, they are not talking about any possible hijacks. And normally they can tell when there's a hijack in progress because the pilot, the original pilot of the plane, has various buttons that he can push that set off a code and tell them that there were hijacks. But
they went too far on 9/11 don't let them get away with treason and mass murder. This cannot stand. Please watch 9/11 Octopus and September Clues.